All right, we'll start with the nation. Tinubu points way forward on power, security, and others. Wike attacks Dogara for backing Atiku. 130 billion naira sukuk loan to fix federal roads. Atiku, I will sell off refineries to raise $10 billion for SMEs. Oil theft, we didn't indict NNPCL, says Navy. And why I deserve re-election by Governor Sanwo-Olu. Okay, which story? Let's start with the major headline.
So the presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, yesterday spoke on how he will tackle insecurity and reposition the economy if elected next year. This was at Chatham House in the UK. He went with a team of some current governors, APC stalwarts, and a think tank institution of members of APC Presidential Council, and they addressed several issues, many of which was, I'll just highlight it, we'll tackle insecurity from the roots. He mentioned how the problem has persisted over a long period of time, even under the current administration, and if elected, how he's going to go about it. He also spoke about power outage will end and broke down the strategy on how power outage will be dealt with. He spoke about the economic changes we need will be driven by the private sector, and his belief that private sector is the fulcrum for the economic progress, and it's evident and documented, the blueprint on how they are going to achieve that. There was no assurance on diaspora voting currently, but he highlighted a bright future at the polls, and El-Rufai spoke extensively about security, restoring security as well. We can't cover everything in newspaper review, so I'd advise everybody to watch the video and read.
But what happened concerning the diaspora voting, they did say that the INEC chairman will be invited in a couple of weeks in January to the Chatham household and able to answer the question.
But there are no assurances.
All right. Any other story? Let's.
Yes, I've got this.
Go ahead.
The Wike. Okay. What are you taking?
No, go ahead.
No, okay. The Wike was attacking Dogara for joining the PDP, and apparently him and Wike had a meeting some weeks before, and they had agreed on something. According to Wike, Dogara, he was just now watching. You know, he said people left PDP before and went to APC. Now they have not left APC and come back to PDP. That they are miscreants. That's
very strong.
I'm quoting him.
I'm quoting him. He said that's how he was watching the TV one day. He just saw Dogara joining APC. And now that him and Dogara are supposed to have a meeting, and now he's seeing Dogara has joined Atiku. That Shebi Dogara said that he is backing a southern president. That why is he now going for a northern president? That they don't have integrity. That he's tired. So Dogara.
What party is Governor Wike again?
PDP. They came to his party.
I thought you'd be happy about it. Okay, no problem. Confusion in the land.
He now says
in the party.
So Dogara now answers him in a tweet. He said, "To my brother, Governor Nyesom Wike, if there is anything you are suffering from, I never thought amnesia would be one of them."
It's a lie.
Why would you think no one except you is entitled to a certain set of principles? She cannot compromise. It's such a pity you cannot remember what our discussion and agreements were all about. Why should only your own position be respected and followed? I will never betray a friend and a brother, and that is why I won't respond to your tirade on live TV.
Interesting.
Interesting. Talking about PDP, the presidential flag bearer of the party, who is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I mean, we hear Wike's name so many times, we're not sure. But to remind us, he was in Lagos, he was in Lagos yesterday for his presidential rally. And one of the things that he said was that he's going to raise $10 billion towards SMEs, the young people in businesses in Nigeria. He says he's been asked how he's going to raise that, and he says if he were to privatize the 3 refineries, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and the third one that's in Warri, that he will be able to raise that amount of money. He also said that if we elect him, there's going to be restructuring of the country. We will give states and local governments more powers and resources. And although there's other political news that say that many of the PDP stalwarts weren't at the venue, but yeah, that's one of the things that he said.
Let's talk about the sukuk. The 130 billion naira sukuk loan to fix federal roads. So the DMO was saying yesterday, as many of you know, the Sukuk is going to, has been a non-interest loan that has been purchased. It's a 10-year facility, a non-interest and an alternative instrument to design in the form of a lease with rental rate. And they've been able to raise about 130 billion. I think there was about over 100 billion Sukuk insurance, and government raised about 130 billion, which will be used exclusively for construction and infrastructure. So, I mean, it's a good thing. I'm happy that we have more money, because I know that the Minister of Works and Housing was saying that they're waiting for this money. They've been waiting for this money for a while to be able to construct quite a few roads. So I'm happy that so far this money is going to be available for them to do the work that needs to be done. Let's move on quickly now to the Punch. Naira depreciation adds 9 trillion naira to foreign debt burden. Abuja-Kaduna train records low passenger turnout. Nigerians with NIN rise to 92 million. Oil theft, Navy denies blaming NNPCL. Nigeria projects 1.8 million barrels production by May 2023. FG not ready to fund varsity, says ASU. And Tinubu takes campaign to UK. Atiku train storms Lagos. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Okay, ASU is saying that it's aware of the federal government's move to gradually disengage itself from funding public universities. So they had a meeting yesterday, a 2-day National Executive Council meeting at University of Cross River. I want to read it exactly. It said, NEC observed with concern the systematic disengagement of government from funding of the public universities through the proposed introduction of education loan, which has proven to be a monumental failure in our nation and some other countries where it was introduced. They're saying that why they find it troubling is that the Nigerian majority is quite poor, and, you know, administration after administration has been like the reason why we have moved our country into poverty, and now they're expecting that this loan would work. And so they're asking Nigerians to speak up, you know, against this proposed move, and also remind government to urgently address the outstanding issue, especially concerning the 2022 Memorandum of Action between the federal government and ASU.
Let me take the story on NIN. So, we have about 92.63 million Nigerians who have already collected their NIN, that's the national identification numbers so far. According to the statistics, about 19.93 took theirs this year. We have about 52.11 million male, 40.52 million female. Lagos and Kano leads the pack. I think Lagos actually has 10.33 million who have their NINs. The states who are still lagging behind are Cross River, Ekiti, Ebonyi, Bayelsa, and Taraba states. Now, if you don't know, these NIN numbers will be, have your records, individual records of your demographics, your data, your fingerprints, head to shoulder, facial picture, all the biometric data. So we don't have to continue to replicate these things across also. We were talking during the break about having to put a picture to show that you're now married, those kind of things. Once you have your NIN, all the data about the fact that you can now you're Mrs. somebody, that will all
just
update it
at the NIN.
Update at NIN, and you're fine to go, and you're good to go. So it's good to know that the 92 million Nigerians now have it, but there's still over 100 million Nigerians left, at least, to get it, and it's important that they could continue to
maybe they don't have phone.
So let me take the story of oil theft. So the Navy denies accusing the NNPCL of being the one that should be responsible for the oil thefts. And the Navy said they got media reports that during the interactive session that they had with the Senate Committee on Economic and Financial Crimes, during the relevant agency implementing the they found out that they felt that the Navy statement indicted NNPC. So NNPC was out to say, no, we are not the one responsible. We told the Navy that 100,000 barrels were being stolen per day, and it is stolen offshore, under the sea, where the ships are supposed to get the crude oil for. They said processed crude oil, Nigeria has not been able to process crude oil for exports since around February, March, and the inability is based on stolen oil. This conversation is that Navy is saying that we did not blame NNPC. Seemingly like we're both responsible. At the end of the conversation, which I want to highlight, is that they both said that we'll work together to secure our oil industry for the overall good of Nigeria and indeed the meaning well-meaning Nigerians. I don't like the fact that we're trading blames, but I think it's important that we are able to label who is responsible and who failed, who dropped the ball, so that if there are no consequences, this thing will still happen again.
Right.
Okay, sorry, I was going to check the Abuja. They said that the Abuja-Kaduna train started yesterday amidst low turnout, but with heavy security. Okay. Security, police, they were on the train, they were at the stations, the Abuja station and the Kaduna station. They took their NIN, right. They took their
as they said they would.
Pictures. They had to, they had to register. Sorry.
Ahead before they got, right? Pre-register before you enter the train.
Yeah, and then they interviewed a couple of the passengers, and Mrs. Adeshino Uthman said it was an awesome experience. She said she enjoyed it, fully air-conditioned, and that she had to scan her barcode on the ticket machine before being allowed to board. Okay. So apparently they're taking
better steps. It's the sustainability of it that's the Nigerians are worried about.
I think a lot of people, they will join later.
Eventually,
people are...
we'll take over.
I won't blame them for being scared.
In fact, I think those people that took this first trip are
very
brave. But it's also good to see that government said one thing and we see...
If you know how terrorists act, they will not go
on the first day.
They're waiting for you to...
Probably the first day that they stay first.
Is that day that I would have gone?
Let me take Governor Wike, my favorite governor after Governor Sanwo-Olu. So, he was speaking right before he said what he said concerning the Dugara. He was saying that he has called members of the Presidential Campaign Council of the party to stop harassing or attacking the G5 governors if you don't want to incur their wrath. He said this, let me say his specific. He said, now I want to tell the presidential candidate of PDP, we only need peace. We want peace. All of us together for the party, we also want to win the election. We want peace in this party. We don't like wahala. He says that, and I'm thinking, he's not the one that is stirring the drama in the party. But he says that it's ludicrous for persons who, that's a different issue, was insisting that if they continue to attack the leaders of the party, they will strike back. If anybody, again, dares in the PDP Presidential Council to insult any of the G5 governors, that they would definitely fight back. Enough is enough. And I'm helping Governor Ike to reiterate it here on papers. Okay, another story. Let's move on now to Vanguard. INEC yet to assure us on Beaver, says Tinubu. Don't despair, Osinbajo can urge Nigerians. You must remain neutral, Buhari warns army. Kidnappers of Ondo Monarch reduced ransom of 10 million naira. No intentions to disrupt 2023 polls. You lack moral basis to criticize Buhari. Subsidy, we won't accept any fuel price hike. And I won't abandon Electoral project, says Adeleke. Okay, which story are we starting with?
The president, ahead of 2023 elections, has warned the Nigerian armed forces to remain apolitical and neutral. He said that they should continue to operate within the framework of the Constitution to ensure a successful conduct of the election, but they shouldn't get involved in anything regarding the election. Then he also promised that he was going to improve the well-being of the army. He said he will continue to improve their human rights obligations, and during operations in line with global best practice, he pledged to modernize the Nigerian armed forces, and they would vigorously, fast-track activation of the Nigerian Army Aviation. Human rights, on the area of human rights, he mentioned that there would be security agencies would need to, there would be more supervision. And then he said, we would continue to galvanize and encourage the public to support your efforts. I urge you to continue to improve your human rights obligation during the operations in line with global best practices. But what I'm happy about is we must keep reminding our security operatives that they are a neutral body, not in support of any party, to ensure that the entire Nigeria, stands and the election is safe.
Okay, I was going to... Vanguard in the story. I was going to take the story, the major headline, which I thought was a bit misleading because it was about the interview at Chatham House where Tinubu was saying that INEC yet to assure on beavers. And if you read that by its own, you don't really get what he was saying, because I did watch the interview, and he was saying, according to the report which I'm reading right now, he says that what Asiwaju was saying, that we are still building confidence in our democratic voting system. And INEC is even yet to assure us that the electronic transmission is seamless enough before we start introducing this international voting. Because I was asking a question based on diaspora voting. Why can't we encourage diaspora voting? So we can't do that now because we are still building a democratic process. Our system is not even strong enough yet to even assure of the smoothness of the process before we start introducing something complicated like diaspora voting. That's what we're saying concerning the major headline before we misconstrue that. Okay. Any other story in Vanguard?
Subsidy, NLC?
Subsidy, go ahead.
Yeah, so NLC is saying that that they would reject any form of fuel price increase in the name of removal of subsidy. As far as they are concerned, they don't think it's right that for them, what is it that we even call subsidy? It says subsidy is inefficiency or our inability to refine products. The president of NLC is saying that, in many other countries, about 50 countries, energy is subsidized. And why would we say that we're unable to subsidize petrol for Nigerians? And he's saying that Nigerians need to step up. He says in socialist countries, they do everything to make life easier for its people. After all, why they're unable to do, revamp our refineries, that is really the problem. That's really the subsidy. If you're unable to revamp refineries, you're inefficient, and you're unable to just provide the products for Nigerians, why would you now say that you're going to take out increase fuel prices? So I guess this conversation is ongoing because on the one hand, we talk about scarcity of products. We hear the different prices in dollars. We hear the constant change in the exchange rate and how this has affected prices back and forth. I think this conversation has to be laid to rest soon enough. And he's saying that whether now or in 2023, they're not going to accept it. So any incoming government, this is going to be a major conversation we have to have going forward.
The abductors, they kidnapped the Oba in Ondo State last week Thursday. They dragged him from his house at 10 p.m. and they have now agreed to collect 10 million. So the family are begging the government and everybody to please come to their aid to rescue their monarch. And they've said that if they don't pay the 10 million, they're going to kill him. So the other Obas, Oba Olanikpekun, called on all the strangers on the farms, produce this man or else we are going to ban all of you from farming here.
Okay, our final paper is the Nigerian Tribune. Let's find a story we've not taken. Alleged $1.3 million fraud. EFCC declares Kano APC senatorial candidate wanted. Or massacre speaker prosecutes arrested suspects, Catholic bishop tells CDS. FG Mall's review of university autonomy laws. Atiku Wu's Lagosian says restructuring will engender just society, united country. Northeast remains one of the world's largest humanitarian crises, says United Nations. Adeleke visits Osun Assembly, promises cordial relations to achieve progress. So I have the Adeleke story. So Governor Adeleke of Osun State was made a statement by the spokesperson to the Speaker, Kunle Alabi, in Osun yesterday, House of Assembly. And he was telling them he was seeking their cooperation in his administration, saying that he promised not that they would not cheat anyone. He says it will be an inclusive government where everybody will be happy and peace will reign supremely in the state. And he does not plan to stop any of former Governor Adeleke's project, former Governor Oyetola's projects. That government is supposed to be a continuum, and he will continue to do the good works he has started. I mean, so I guess he's trying to come down to appeal to the lawmakers because you can't do anything without the lawmakers on your side. So it's important that he's taking a wise decision to go to appeal to them, to lobby, to ensure that they support him as he moves forward. Okay.
I also like that he said he's going to continue. He said government is a continuum.
Yes.
So, I mean, that is the way it should be. Continue the projects of the former governor.
Okay, I think that's all we can take on Front Page Review today.